to what we saw in Amsterdam, where people were doing 15 minutes of just the red right before the lights came on. You're seeing a lot of that manipulation. Same thing. I was at
get him to wake up and put him to bed. I can buy into. I can buy into that potential.
I was at a grow in Maryland where they were experimenting with, like, as the clones came out, the first 15 minutes of light were UV just for like the first 3 days before they put them into fly. Weird stuff. You know, we discuss it all the time. We're Jug Dealers. We're the podcast you need in your feed. Teaching the game like you never seen. Jared, Gabe, Rambo, true OGs. Masters of the globe, set your mind free. From Denver, Colorado, where the data's green. We set the data points for the SOPs. Jug Dealers Podcast, yes indeed. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jug Dealers Podcast, where we discuss all things cannabis and lifestyle related, brought to you by the good people at 5-8 Distribution and JugDealers.net, JugDealers.shop.
I don't know what would happen if you go to JugDealers.com. That could get whacked.
You can find a jug band.
Right now you're finding a damn out-of-date jug band.
JugDealers.com. Sell us your thing.
Hey, shout out.
A greedy jug band.
Yeah, we actually looked into it, but anyhow. Back in the Jug Den, always great to be here. Gabe, nice to see you. Grambo, the man behind the glass, nice to see you, my friend. We are, in part, to be honest with you, due to demand, and we really appreciate the listener interaction of this. Like we always say, if you have questions, hit us up. You can hit us up on Instagram. I know that Grambo did a post specifically asking for questions, which we got inundated with a bunch of them. So thank you guys for that. That means that, we know we're engaged, and we know that if we put out a post and you guys are asking questions, that means you got questions and we're happy to answer them. So that is going to be our goal today. You
can also head over to JugDealers.net for the questions.
Looky there. You can send that. That actually goes directly to me. So shoot me a message. Got any questions? Also, for anybody that's looking for samples of any kind, anything you see behind us, anything we talk about, whether you're a commercial grower or a home grower, hit us up. We're down to help you out. We know the seeing's believing. Got to give you a little taste before you go balls in.
Truly believing.
Seeing is truly believing.
That is the ethos of the drug dealer or jug dealer.
Hey. Cut that out.
Cut that part out. Edit.
Who's got the dumb button?
We just got age restricted.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's get into this questions episode. And we're going to start with Mr. Seed Cracker.
Mr. Seed Cracker. Okay.
Why don't more vendors sell male pollen? Which is not, it's not a question I've had before, but I thought it was actually a really good question. I'll kind of give my quick opinion on it. Number one, a lot of these guys have their stud, and that is the basis of their whole breeding program. Mm-hmm. So even more so than the females are hitting it with, that male that's been selected is much more important to them. That being said, I have seen it actually sold, just not a lot. I saw it being sold a decent amount at Emerald Cup a couple years ago. Also, and lastly, it doesn't last all that long.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So the viability goes down pretty darn quickly. So to do it, you'd have to, really time up for an event. Let's say you were going to do a drop at like an Emerald Cup or something like that. I think you'd have to time it pretty good. But again, I think a pretty fair question. Gabe, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Pretty much in the same boat, having it. Most people are going to refrigerate it. Once you take it out of the refrigerator, all of a sudden that stuff starts crashing. So, collecting it, kind of a pain in the ass. And then the other thing is as well, people finding their male, it's like,
that's pretty special for them.
And I mean,
it's the backbone of the program.
Well, and the one thing I was thinking about too, as well, is like, a lot of people putting out fem genetics nowadays. There's just not as many. There's not as many males involved.
Well, you make it interesting. You make it interesting. And of course, and it's obviously a little bit different, but a lot more autoflowers out there too. So that's the other thing that we've, seen a lot more. And I know Grambo's been, kind of paying attention to kind of that chitter chatter about all the autoflower stuff going on out there.
Yeah. Any place where the science isn't settled, like the LED versus HPS, our autoflowers crap. People really love to talk about that.
People are so coming back around on that train when it comes to HPSs versus LEDs. Mm-hmm. We've seen some of, I'm not going to drop any names.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I'm not going to drop any names, but you saw that, a certain competitor of ours just put out a very big kind of article, study, whatever about HPSs versus LEDs, and I mean,
and I mean, we have our opinion, which we're not going to get drowned in that. We're not going to go off on that tangent, but we have pretty strong opinions about selection pressures when it comes to lighting and things like that. So I personally don't think it's one or the other. I think it's more of a selection thing. But anyway, let's not get lost in the sauce.
I actually want to just a couple more things from Mr. Seed Cracker here.
Mr. Cracker.
First off,
I like it with the crack.
If you do have something you like, don't be afraid to, go do what other people are doing and buy the reversal spray and reverse a female and get some male pollen. And then B, go buy reg seeds, go pheno hunt a male. I've had some males that I've had around in my time where I've given.
See, that's not the question. The question is, why don't more vendors sell male pollen?
But that there's not, but I'm saying if he wants male pollen, there's ways to get it.
Yeah,
you just have to go.
It's definitely harder to get, but reason being is I think that's it. So next one, Tark 21423. Tark 21423. Thank you for the support. He has a question about, or she, I guess. Actually, I think it's he. I think I've met you before.
Yeah, I know.
Tark. I've met you before, sir.
Tark's good dude.
All right, Tark. Thank you for following. I know who you are. Good to see you. Thanks for the question. Okay, using winter frost in living soil. I think Jaron. Thank you for spelling that right, by the way. Good work. Has touched on this before, but will it ruin/affect the soil for your next run? Also, want one of those black beanies I heard y'all talking about last winter. All right, we'll do another beanie run. It is getting to be nice and cool. Finally,
I think that we were mostly the gray ones. So,
and as far as buying one, we will actually have that right now. I think we just have the gray hat and one or two shirts on there. But if we do, and in fact, we will. Put it on the list. We'll get some beanies this winter, actually, and we'll get them up on the website. Okay, so to answer your question, no, it will not ruin your living soil. It's not like, I know there was a product out there, I believe, called Final Phase at one point in time, and that's where I think people get afraid of it. And Final Phase did actually lock up your soil, and it was trash after that. Winter frost degrades and will disappear right away. The one thing I will say with people is if you have a full bed or even a large pot, just to be able to get more waterings in, because a lot of people do one water a week when they do stuff like that. I want at least 3 waterings in with winter frost. So just water the plant and maybe not the whole bed or the whole pot if it's rather large. Mm-hmm. So you can actually get 3 waterings in a week. Yep. Beautiful part about it, it is going to initiate that senescence, which is a natural ripening process. And when you're in soil or living beds, things like that, you can't just turn off the tap. You can't turn off the microbes. They're still crunching away. They don't give a shit about what's going on to the plant. So oftentimes it can be hard to get those colors and that finishing and that senescence that we want. A lot of times you just see those soil run plants just keep going and they just don't finish. So I actually think for a lot of people, winter frost is fantastic for living soil.
Challenges in living soil and stuff like that is totally knowing your timing, know what's going to be, knowing how the plant is going to have used it all, so utilize it all. So
great question. Yep, great question, and thank you for putting that in. Tark, good seeing you again.
It's funny because I always tell the story with the guy about the ghost pepper.
Yeah,
in Syracuse, put it on his plant before he went to work. Came home from work, it changed color. I'm not making that story up. Guy called me, was like, "You'd never believe what happened."
Now I'm even thinking, and not just a slight little side, that'd almost be fun to do a time lapse on that.
Right.
With peppers, dude. With the scorpion pepper or something, maybe a reaper.
And we wouldn't get age gated.
So, hey, we're doing all kinds of fun stuff here in the den.
So let's do this next one.
Scrogaroni.
Scrogaroni. The old Scrogaroni. Different than DC Scrogar. This is Scrogaroni. So what products in the NewMill lineup would you foliar spray them?
Okay, great question. Often gets asked question as far as New Millennium specifically. Lightning Start you can do along with Ruby Fulvic. Yep. And in fact, Lightning Start, Ruby Fulvic, and Slicium.
That's the magic.
Lightning 10 mils, Ruby 5 mils, Slicium 2 mils, veg only. Dude.
Yo, that's the lick.
Ooh-wee.
It's the lick.
Okay.
That's some secret stuff. It really is. The nice thing about that, with that foliar on the Slicium, it's going to really go inside the stomata. Yep. It's really going to coat everything. It really just helps make the cell wall stronger.
Our product, as we know and have been educated, is stabilized as such a small. It's monomers, dimers, and trimers. So 1, 2, or 3 molecule chains. That's it. And it's so meaning that it's small enough to actually get in through the pores, through that cuticle layer of the leaf to actually be uptaken. It's very, very small little holes. So it has to be a very small molecule to get through there. And in fact, the beautiful product that we have called Slicium, they use either or fuller, 2 mils a gallon, like we said, or a root drench at 0.5 mil a gallon, add it to your reservoir first. Ba-da-bow.
And now we have Slicium Bloom.
We do have Slicium Bloom as well. And that does have some enzymes. It's got some aminos. It's got some other things. It has the, I believe the percentage step down a little bit of the actual salicylic acid. It's a different product.
I'm using it.
No.
I'm using it. Yeah, it's not that original formula.
No.
It is. I'm using it right now in my garden. It's definitely a lot thinner.
Okay. So again, thank you, Scrogaroni. Next, and we'll just touch on this super fast because we already kind of talked about Frosty Gardener 420. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for the question. Can I reuse media that has been hit with winter frost? The very short answer, which we already did, is yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the question. Go ahead.
Green Goose on the loose.
Almost my most fun.
Shout out to her. She's awesome. She's into photography now.
Okay. Hey,
I see you guys out there.
If you have any good photography of anything you've used New Millennium on, tag us up and we'd love to feature you.
Hey.
Oh, okay.
So Jayhawk.
Yes, sir.
Would you suggest using New Millennium nutrients with autopots? I know you have a bunch of experience with this.
I do. Okay. So here's the thing I have with autopots.
You don't use them like you're supposed to, do you?
Here's the thing. I've done it a couple different ways and I don't use them currently, although I have used them. Now, I put a tap in the middle to where I could turn it on and turn it off because the reality is there's definitely genetics that just don't want wet feet all the time. And by design, the autopots are going to keep a very thin film of water, on there. I always thought that it would be better for me to have the smaller pot. The reality is the autopot people and Manny told me, really, for what I was doing, I should have had the bigger pot, which didn't really at the time make sense to me. I think now I would probably buy into that a little bit more. You just have more room that wasn't going to be saturated, right? Where the plant could actually. You think
that's because you're in a tent? If you had a room,
well, I mean,
if it was in my 10 by 10 spot, you think it'd work a little bit better?
Well, again, it's just the feet are wet all the time.
Yeah.
So what
I'm growing OGs,
they don't like that. Now, what I would do is I just put a tap in between the reservoir and going out, like just a little ball valve, so that I could even turn it down and dry it down some. That's what I would do personally to get a little bit more dry back.
So your answer is
so you can adjust it a little bit. Yes,
but modified.
Yes, but modified.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
but modified.
Okay.
And by the way, shout out to Autopot. They definitely hooked me up years ago with the full setup. And I've actually been out to their farm in the UK for the Autopot Festival and seen the biggest onions in my life grown in greenhouses out there. There's literally like a 3-gallon pot with 1 onion in it. I mean, no joke, absolutely massive. I'll have to shoot Grambo over some pictures, but they do an invite only festival cannabis deal out there, which I was literally in the UK like, how is this even happening here? This is insane. So so if you have any further questions on that too, you can definitely hit us up and I can go through the autopot thing a little bit more for you. But again, I think that's a good way to say, but modify it a little bit. And again, a little bit of strain specificity.
A little bit of tinkering.
Some aren't going to give a damn. They're going to go, oh, wet feet. Cool. Give me more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm growing that. I'm growing the Skittles right now. I can't water that.
See, and what I might even consider too is either going with the Scietetics liquid to run real clean, or the universal from New Millennium, just to avoid the colloidal clays, to run a little bit cleaner in that system as well. I would probably also pull carbo out and hand water that, just because of the biofilm buildup that you will get running carb in the res.
Ruby, sometimes you'll Fulvitech.
Yeah, but in full, if you want to be safe, you do
get the floats. I hand water,
so but those floats are pretty good. You know what I mean? They definitely. I never worried about hand watering in Ruby carbo for sure though.
Yeah.
But good call. Okay, your mailman grows, another longtime supporter. Thank you very much. Appreciate you putting the question out there. What and how does a recirculating pump work? I'm in Jaren's res to stop sediment from resting on the bottom of said res. Okay, so I just put a res with, a recirculating pump that you could use obviously as a sump pump. I just don't put the line on it. It's just an open end and it just recirculates.
What I was gonna say, what we'll do sometimes too is we'll just like on a Mondi pump, we'll put like a 3-foot pipe up and then put an elbow so it just
goes like this. Yeah.
The one thing I would say to folks too is put it on a timer. You don't want it running all the time. It will get hot. If you're running a Mondi, it'll get hot.
Okay, that's a big pump. I was doing like a small, like Eco 694 in a 55-gallon res.
Just want to be. And here's what I would say: be cognizant.
Thank you. Be cognizant. Again, if you watch back actually on our enzymes episode, you'll realize why. In part, why you want to be
so important. Yeah,
want to be cognizant.
And for me, I mean, here's the deal for me, and in most places, I shouldn't even say for me. Wintertime. Your water coming out of the tap is around 55 degrees.
Yep.
So having that pump in there a lot of times.
See, that's the thing. Sometimes it's good.
Help and pump it. So I'll be honest with you. At home, I'll actually put in 5 gallons of hot water.
Sure,
just to get it up to the right temperature.
Yep.
But
I used to have to put boiling water in because I was like low on time. I'd boil water and heat up my resin.
And a lot of people will be like, "Oh,
gotta do what you gotta do."
People will be like, "Oh, it's not dechlorinated."
Welcome to being a grower. So anyway, long story short, you don't want an oversized pump, for your reservoir. Obviously, I always just kept it. I always just kept it rolling. A little eco pump, just let it keep going. It just keeps everything mixed up. I've always preferred that. I do break it down between reservoir fills,
clean them,
just to clean them out. Because again, that one of the things that the carbo does is it will create biofilms. There's a lot of magic in biofilms, but it is hard on equipment, things like that. So you do got to be, cognizant of that. Sometimes I hand water.
Well, the owner of our company, when I first came here and I started talking, we were talking about the salt revolution. He just looks at me, he goes, "Hey, bro, dirt's not clean."
No,
you make a good point there, don't you?
All right. Uncle Strawberry, not familiar with this one, but thank you for putting the question out. Would you recommend building one 14 by 14 room or 6 4x4 rooms in flower 9 weeks and one plant has a branch resting on another and now started producing leaves like it? Okay. Well, it sounds like a 2-part question.
The guys we don't read them. I put them in like cold and they don't read them. So
that's why I like
some of the languaging might be heard.
I like going cold, guys. That's how I like to do it.
For me, it depends on how many different genetics you're doing. Personally, I like dealing with just one room. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces in 4 different rooms. You got 4 different reservoirs, 4 different juices.
Yes. But it does give you the specificity. It does give you more of an ability to do, more of a perpetual style grow, but that's a hard one.
Bro, 4x4 is like a little bit bigger than this bag.
I'm very familiar with the 4x4. So I've been growing in one for many years.
Exactly.
I don't know what the hell a 4x4 is. Give me some shit.
It's like, I know what a 4x4 looks.
But I will say this is that's 4 little microclimates too that will be harder to manage. In that, because of size, I would go with the one. I'd go with the one larger. Now, the second thing about the plants on the leaves, man, I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm gonna need pictures. I'm gonna need pictures and a little bit more explanation. But thank you for putting it. What was that?
In a 4x4.
Uncle Strawberry. What was that?
Yes.
Man, I got like a fucking bear trap. Okay, flowers. For Dad.
Flowers for Dad.
Look, I love flowers.
It's a great name. It's one of my favorite viewer names.
Yeah.
Flowers for Dad.
Flowers for Dad.
We're all dads.
Yeah.
Give us some flowers.
Yeah, I like flowers. I'm about to do my first pheno hunt in my home grow. Rock on. No more than 10 plants. Well, but of course, what are some things to be looking for in a keeper? What other tips do you have for doing a hunt? Okay. First off, a keeper is all in the eye of the beholder, number one. And the keepers are going to be somewhat dependent on how large your trial size is. If you're only doing 10, the best one out of there, or the one that you like the most, is quote unquote going to be the keeper. Here's what I can almost guarantee though. You're going to have one that's going to produce more that you like, and you're going to have one that's even danker and doesn't produce much. Now you're going to go, which one do I keep? Almost always happens. Number 2, that's a very small sample size. So when you talk about keeper, some people really don't consider it a keeper unless it's an outlier. Okay. So if it's in that meat of the curve, and like a known phenotype that's going to come out of that, they wouldn't necessarily consider that a keeper. This is some people. Again, it's everybody, it's subjective. It's not objective.
So, here, first off,
right?
Yeah. Here's the thing. So first off, the seeds that you bought, why did you buy them? Were you looking for traits from the father or the mother? Second off, I have found, just from running hundreds and hundreds of seeds of the same thing, generally the keepers, they really make themselves known. It's kind of like our buddy Eugene Monroe. Like Eugene Monroe was 6'4" in 8th grade. Everybody knew he was going to play in the NFL in 8th grade, nobody
else was looking at us.
It wasn't like a freaking mystery. And so the one thing I've definitely noticed, and when I say that, the other thing I would say is, definitely, do some stress testing in veg. let them get dry a little bit, see how they do, push them a little bit. These are all things that once you get them into flower, you're going to need to be looking for hermaphroditic tendencies. God, I hope that doesn't get it. Yeah, okay, hold on, break, edit. Okay, you're going to have to look for tendencies where it's not, there's certain words I can't say because it'll get us age restricted.
Well, here's the deal. The reality isn't, I don't think we even need to go in that much, dude. It just grab something that you like, and don't here's the thing with a small, test plot like that, you just pick out what's going to, and I almost guarantee the one that's going to be growing the best, that you think's the prettiest and everything else, it's going to be a male.
So here's
what happens every time.
Well, and here's the other thing. Here's the other thing I would say to you as well. Be willing to accept the fact that none of them are going to be viable.
Well, and that's also possible. That's
a really hard thing for people to do though, because they go out and they spend $100-$300 on a pack of seeds, and they're like, "Well, I have to get something out of this." And let me just say this, please, please, please listen to me. Don't select on how it washes. No one cares. No one cares.
Unless you're washing. I actually think that's stupid to say that, because
why the reality
would you
say that?
Because people can grow for whatever they're looking for.
I guess.
What do you mean you guess? If your goal is doing, which there's plenty of people that don't do anything but wash their shit, why would you not get something to wash? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Because it fucks up the gene pool, I think.
Not necessarily. How so?
Because then people think it's a great washer. They go breeding with it. They end up
let anybody do whatever they want. This is a free world. People don't have to do any things that, like.
I think that's.
I think that's a very narrow-sighted.
No, I think that's where the garbage comes in. To be honest with you, I think
maybe it is. Maybe it is.
I think that's where like. Go buy 3 more packs of those seeds and find something that's better.
For me and in horticulture, what is your goal? So it doesn't matter what your goal is. My goal can be different, by the way.
Yeah.
No, for sure. So that's why I say the keeper comes down to you. It doesn't really come down to us. So anyway, let's move on. Van Ripster
on that one.
Long-term supporter, won one of the first TGC Cups, if I remember right.
Damn.
And what was the strain? Oh, it was a good one too. Anyway,
so much for that bear trap.
Hey, shut up! Damn you!
I'll fire myself.
All right, Rip. Nice to see you. Thank you for reaching out. Is silica, in parentheses Slicium, helpful in preventing powdery mildew? Great question. If so, at what dosages would you recommend, and when should I cut it out? All great questions. That's real straightforward.
1/2 milliliter. You can use it the whole time. When we
vegging up to about 6 weeks of flower.
When you get into bloom, you can switch over to the bloom. Although I've been using the regular for years, and it's not going to have any adverse effects. You can use it 2 mils a gallon on your foliars. Both ways, it's going to be effective. Yes, it is going to help with powdery mildew, just in the fact that it's going to make that cell wall thicker, in which the hyphae will have a harder time penetrating.
And as we both like to call it, liquid insurance, right? Because it's going to reduce any and all abiotic and biotic stresses. So I like to say it's fine until you break your arm, right? I don't need health insurance until I break my arm. Once I break my arm, organ hernia, you're going to want some damn health insurance. Poor Granby, he's been hurting over there. He's going to get squared away.
I started working out. I might have popped a little something in.
Bro, how awesome does it? Let me just say with that shot of Grambo, how awesome does it look like that we're shooting at 9 a.m. in the morning?
Right. The clock just breaks. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Look,
China, goddamn China clock.
Nothing's perfect. China. Rip, thank you very much for the question. Cut it out about week 6 of flower.
Yep.
If you got any additional questions, let us know.
American Taco. Any recommendations when running autos?
There's
with
the autos.
New Millennium?
God, that one's been coming up a lot.
This is a tough one. I always tell people reach out to Cortez because he does it the most. Truth of the matter is,
good call.
Use it the same way you would with regular stuff. The only thing is for me, when to use decision.
Well, I don't worry about decision, to be honest. I throw that one out because I think it's impossible to say.
Reality is that plant's going to show you when it starts. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Go ahead.
When you buy autos, they're going to give you a range of how long it'll veg. Did they tell you?
It doesn't really veg. It does. It's going, as soon as it gets through the juvenile stage, it's going to immediately start flowering. So I pretty much tell people like a couple weeks worth of veg nutrients, and let's just start getting it equinox and autumn. Let it rip. It's what they give you, Gabe, is just a total days.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not really like the cutoffs, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong. And I have literally never grown autos, but I believe it's just like, yeah, I know. I believe it says just like 75 days, but that's more or less I'm going to say not even from seed. I think that's from like juvenile plants, right? You get the first cotyledons aren't the true leaves, and you get the first set of true leaves. So once you get like a few sets of true leaves, like from there, I think.
I don't know enough. I don't know enough to speak to it. All I know is
just through interviewing Cortez so much, I say the only thing as far as nutrients go, just low and slow. They can burn very, very easily. You got to protect that tap root. So don't do anything that's going to make it too hot. The tap root decides everything. And if it touches the bottom, deeper is better than wider as far as pots. And
one of the reasons that is because why? Because seed plants shoot tap roots, whereas cuts are going to put a fiber shoot system out. Hey, Grambo, look at that guy.
I'm learning, baby. At Grambo Grows, no big deal.
All right. What do you got, Gabe?
Pickle 750. What exactly, if anything, do cannabis plants do in the dark period? Are they still uptaking nutrients? Are they growing biomass in veg or oils in the flower period? What the hell are the stomata doing? Is there anything we could be doing in darkness to stimulate or enhance growth or uptake?
Well, okay. What are you doing when it's dark? Sleeping. It's repairing. It really is a bit of a repairing process. You don't have photosynthesis going on. If you don't have photosynthesis going on, then you don't have CO2 uptake. So whether the stomata are open or not, there's not anything actually happening when it comes, unless you happen to be a cam plant. Now for our plants, which are a C3 photoperiodic plant, which cannabis is, many other plants are as well. Now, if you're a cam plant, which is a desert plant, it actually does all the fixation at night because then it can open the stomata, but that's a special situation.
I was going to say it actually is using some of the excess energy it has stored up from the day to convert some of those sugars.
Sure.
But
it's pretty much
that's pretty much it. And you know, that's one of those things where micromole and stuff comes in. But yeah, it's basically kind of just resetting for the next day.
And if the stomata are closed, obviously it's not drinking. So that's why you have people even doing pulse systems, man. Don't they maybe do like a couple little pulses at night, but like that's it. But they might do 10 or more during the day.
You'll see some of the, when we talk about the dark period, you know, that I've seen some wild stuff lately. You and I have discussed as far as people messing with the dark period.
Yeah.
You know, as you are very quick to mention, it is a photoperiodic plant, meaning that it flowers based on the time of darkness, and not on the time of light.
Well, and they call it. See, and here's what's a little confusing. They call it a critical day period, but it really is a critical night period.
Oh wow!
So
now I'm learning.
Yeah, this is like so important because again, you know, there's certain. I'm not going to name anybody.
Okay.
But you know, I've seen.
But there's also gas lamp. There's a lot of different things
I've seen it where so. In the late 1990s, mid 1990s, there was a group of gardeners up in Canada. We've had this discussion where they were doing 18 on and 12 off. And the theory was that they could get a 60-day plant down in like 50 or 45 days because with 18 hours of light, it is getting the same amount of light it would get in that 60 days.
Yeah.
But a cannabis plant needs 12 hours of darkness. Yeah. Anything under 12 hours of darkness. We call it 12. There's a couple. Sure. There's going to be outlier genetics that do it with
but
less.
Even Colorado never gets 12. There's never 12 hours of darkness.
No, 100%.
My plants are definitely flowering.
No. And that's why I'm saying, and that's why you see that variation where people, you know, I had a buddy of mine call me here and he hit me in late July.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, my plants are flowering.
Super sensitive.
And I was like,
super sensitive plants.
I was like, well, yeah. And he goes, well, I didn't think they were supposed to flower for 2 more weeks. And I said, look, I've grown outdoors and seen in a lot of places where plants flower anywhere from, let's say, July 23rd through August 7th, you know, in which, not for nothing, a plant that started flowering July 23rd is probably going to finish in the end of September, not the middle of October.
Absolutely. And it's funny because even that 1812, it obviously got the proper amount of darkness, even with giving it extra light.
But it was weird for the crews because the crews couldn't ever be there at the same time.
It runs,
you know, but it's the only time I've ever seen it. You know, and you do see certain people, I'm not going to name anybody, who say 18.6. I'm going to be just dead square honest on that. I don't agree with that. I would say, if anything, you do 18-12 for the last week or two.
I could buy into that a little bit more. And that's just because I look at it from also just a physiology standpoint, knowing that it's phytochrome red and phytochrome far red, which is the hormones in the plant that it knows when it's light. It builds up and then breaks down. That's how it knows where the balance is.
Well,
right?
and that's actually a great segue to what we saw in Amsterdam, where people were doing 15 minutes of just the red right before the lights came on. You're seeing a lot of that manipulation. Same thing. I was at
get him to wake up and put him to bed. I can buy into. I can buy into that potential.
I was at a grow in Maryland where they were experimenting with, like, as the clones came out, the first 15 minutes of light were UV just for like the first 3 days before they put them into flat. Weird stuff. You know, we discuss it all the time. There's still so much to learn when it comes to light. When it comes to light,
experiment,
we
experiment.
know
have
nothing.
Fun. Yeah.
We don't know anything. So
anything to do in darkness to stimulate our enhance growth or uptake. As far as I'm concerned, watch your humidity and just let them chill.
Dude, Jersey grown fire. Jersey grown fire is the homie.
All right.
We see you. What is the one additive from New Millennium you would recommend to someone using different base nutrient program, veg through flower?
Okay, so that's complicated because I'm going to give a two-part answer, right? Because first off, talking about it,
I knew that's what you were going
I'm talking
for.
Veg through flower, ruby fulvic being a 9-source fulvic acid with that bacteria
or the
in there.
Fulvitech.
Or the Fulvitech,
depending, because you got the Athena boys that are going to run.
Yep.
You know,
because this has a bacteria in it. Fulvitech does not. Now the thing is, that's really specific to your question when you say veg and flower, because you're using this all the way through veg, all the way through flower. 5 mils a gallon is going to maximize uptake of anything that you're running it with. Now, of course. Where's the winter frost? The winter frost is, Grambo will pull it up.
Where is the winter frost?
I might have used
Somebody's using it.
The winter frost is what we call the gateway jug, of course. And for somebody that has their program really set and wants to just try one product, that's the easiest one. It goes in right at the end. It's a standalone pre-flush. Pre-flush, you get more oil, more color, more individualization of your strains. Absolute home run product. That's why we dubbed it the gateway jug long ago, because that's typically where people start. But if you're wanting something that's a more prolonged, all the time additive, give our girl Ruby a run.
And one of the things that's interesting, just to jump on that, it's not so much related to the question, but the different expressions that you get out of when you take plants early with winter frost, they completely finish, yet there's different expressions, terpenes, flavors. It's so
well, and even, I mean, the GMO I showed you earlier today, Gabe, and you always make a point. And I think the part of it is it's finished, but I think it's because it's taken as early as it is, because I get it to finish.
The dude I got the Skittles off of, he told me definitely take it at 58. He's like, as soon as it gets past 58, it just crashes.
Interesting. Again, man, there's so much fun stuff out there.
And that's an opportunity to say there might be a Jug Dealers little shorts channel with hardcore grow talks. That be looking out for that.
So
the first topics we're going to cover.
Is that all we have time for? We got one more?
Yeah.
All right, let's keep rolling. A little bit.
Derbs Green. When I saw the reason is because I saw this question, I thought it was interesting. When do you give up on a plant? When is it time to say things are not working out? Like one sad plant in the tent when every other one loves the program. When is the bud not worth making Goldilocks happy?
Okay, I'm going to say yesterday. You should have already gotten rid of that shit. Okay. That should be gone. If it ain't part of the program, get it out. And we've talked a lot about this when you've brought verified genetics into your program and it didn't necessarily work out, or I brought them in. They're verified genetics. They're what they're supposed to be, but the expression that I'm getting, because what is phenotype? Genotype plus environment. So the environment that I'm giving it, just not getting the expressions that I want. So it doesn't work out. I usually, in reality, if it's a genetic, so if it's just one sad plant and you still have the genetic, get rid of that shit. Try it again. I've had stuff that it took me 3 runs.
Yeah. What if it's if it's a special plant?
I said genetic wise. Yeah. If it's one sad plant, keep the genetic, but try and run it again. 3 runs. There's been some even that garlic cocktail. The first time I ran it, I was not that impressed.
Right.
Second time I was like, okay, you're like, third one, it banged out.
I'll tell you what, it's always the one when you're when you're getting rid of the plant.
Oh, that's your best run.
It's your best run.
No, guaranteed.
And you're there and you're guaranteed. Like, oh, God damn it. I mean, what I would say is too, man, in that respect, give it a little extra love. Maybe, the other thing I would say is, and I don't know you, maybe stop overwatering it. Because
here's the thing too.
That's the most common. Thing.
But think about how many people take stuff that like is okay in veg and go ahead and put it in flower.
Yeah.
Like I always taught,
hold it back. I'll hold them back
transplants
sometimes.
even like when we were on the farm, it was like almost good enough isn't good enough.
Yeah.
So if you think about it a little bit, veg a few extra plants.
How
So
important
always,
is the genetic is really the question. If you have other clones of it and one clone looks like shit, toss that thing. I mean,
and maybe it just got overwatered. Maybe it got overwatered a little bit. And here's the thing: this is an annual plant. If something went wrong, you don't have time to get it fully back.
And
I'm sorry.
The other thing I would say,
especially if it's flowering.
The other thing I would say is too.
Sorry.
Smell the root zone, pull it out of the pot, take a look at the rhizosphere, like do some investigating.
Well, here's the thing though: you got a bunch of other healthy plants, spread them out. Get rid of them.
But the one thing I would say to that is take it as an opportunity to maybe learn something a little.
Well,
yeah. I mean, the other thing I would say, just as not even as a sales guy, just a guy who likes plants, pound it with 15 mils of ruby, run it out, run it out, see if that helps
the thing
reset
that sucks
the
is
soil.
if you're already overwatered, and especially in soil.
I don't disagree.
That's a good time to maybe do a little foliar.
I don't disagree. It's just a question of,
Derbs Green, thanks for the question. I think we got at least one more, and I do like this next one. Clue with a K, KLEW 5988, Clue 5988. What do you guys have to offer organic living soil growers? I love the show and I'm going to watch anyway, but what advice or products do you have for the organic grower like myself? 4x4 soil living bed and 30-gallon plus containers. So as we backed up and we talked about Winter Frost is a fantastic product to get your plants to actually finish and senesce in soil beds in large pots. So that would be number one. Number two, this Carbonaria right here is absolutely a fantastic product. 20 different direct plant extracted sugars readily available as plant and microbe food. I would put that in living soil beds all day long. Yep. And in all honesty, the ruby as well, because again, it's just fulvic acids at 000. It's not really a fertilizer. It's going to go in and collect and help uptake whatever available nutrients are there in your substrate. So right back to the trilogy, as always. And then also, the Slicium. Slicium is used heavily in organic food farming and organic crop production worldwide. Again, that's just a plant, or that's just basically a plant available, readily available form of silica, right?
Yep.
It's just the chemical form that's immediately uptakeable. So all those are great. Anything else you got to add to that, my friend?
No, man, you pretty much nailed it on that
this
one.
This next name. Good luck.
I was going to.
Oh, shoot. Go ahead, Gabe.
Aulensenheiser 9644.
Aulensenheiser?
Yeah. Okay. It's one of our German friends.
I was about to say we do.
I'm not trying to even. We got a decent amount of listeners from Germany, so I'm not.
I do like this question, and maybe you're not, but I don't think that's a
defoliation. I'd love to hear your opinion, specifically when is the best time to get rid of the lower branches that won't make it, and how to tell if they need to go. I mean, pretty simple for me. If it doesn't look like it's going to grow anything productive, cut it the hell off. I usually go, just as a rule, anything lower I keep on. I usually go 2 or 3 nodes down, and then I strip everything from there. Depending on if it has tendencies to reverse itself, like let's say a ChemD or a GMO or a Gorilla Glue, I'll usually skin those up a bit higher, just because they will have some tendencies to kind of just get a little freaky, especially if you're pushing the nutrients hard. And then realistically, just industry standard, I'll usually clean things up really well before they go into flower. Some people will do it first day of flower. I like to do it last day of veg. So that way you're just bringing in perfectly good plants. And then days 21 and 42 is pretty much industry standard. I'm really going to agree with that. There are certain genetics. It's really going to take you just taking some notes, but there are certain genetics that really love to get stripped
and some that don't.
You know what I mean? You just got, and that's going to be in a know your genetics category. And
I've always gone with that day 20.
They'll tell you.
I've always gone with the day 20. I've never done the day 42. I don't like getting in there. It's such a messy job at that point. So I personally am not messing with the flowers
for
at that
commercial
point.
production.
Now, commercial, you see it a lot. And it takes care of stuff on the back end.
Yeah.
It's like all pre-harvest.
Yeah. In fact, it's funny we talk about that. One thing we haven't discussed that I really want to do an episode of is harvesting. This next question from actually my good buddy Dad Marino.
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm a day 20. I do like either a couple days or right before flip, like you said, so it goes in real clean.
Yeah.
Gets the first 3 weeks. Now, which ones do you take off? If you want to have a visual marker, I literally just, once you have good flower set, look at the very top buds, look at the ones that are down there. You will see a very large discrepancy in size.
Well, get rid of the little ones. Here's the thing, man. You get a lot of people that are like, oh, it's a solar panel. I'm not disagreeing with that, by the way.
Although,
but everything on there is a solar panel.
Everything that's green is photosynthesizing.
That's one of the last things I learned about cats. Like the buds also.
Yes.
So, and just as a rule too, you have a bud here, you have a leaf above it. Strip that leaf and show those buds.
In theory, what's happening is that energy is going more directly to the bud. So even like the big fan leaves that are there at the cruxes right there, that's a very big solar panel. Yes, but that goes to the plant in general.
Yep.
So what you want to do is just move that out of the way because it's still going to be hitting green. Those photons are going to keep moving until they run into chlorophyll somewhere.
And I believe you guys believe in the tuck, don't pluck if you can, right?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, but I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've been plucking more.
I've never felt like I've overstripped a plant. And I've gone pretty hard.
I had an employee who worked for me who was university trained from Iowa. I would come in and I would literally be like, I would see the plants and I'd be like, what did you do? Like it's naked. And literally, dude, 4 or 5 days later, you wouldn't even know that thing got stripped.
You want to shout out to Dankum Sunner. That boy strips the plant. You want to see somebody strip it down. And even I remember saw Cap commented on one of his. He's like, "Damn, homie, nobody strips like you do." So shout out.
He's like a Vegas stripper out there,
and he's a hell of a good grower. There's no doubt about it. So I again at home without having the commercial aspect of it, I don't worry about the day 42. I do a real good strip on day 21 ish. It might be 17 because that's just where the genetics are, but that's kind of the rule of thumb.
And by the way, that's AJ Lautzenheiser 9644. I tried to. It took me a second.
Okay.
But shout out to AJ.
AJ,
we got it right.
AJ.
Last but not least, we're gonna round it up with this one. But this one's from my good buddy Dad Marino. Shout out. Hope you and the dog and the family are doing well. He's got a beautiful, beautiful King Corso, like massive King Corso. Beautiful dog. Should I harvest at lights out or right before the lights turn on? What are some good preparation techniques prior to harvest? So as we just discussed, I really like trying to strip off as much of that big leaf as possible while the plants are alive. I'm coming in there. Getting is, depending on what scale you're at, try and get as much of the prep work done as possible. If they're, if they're trellised, try and get all that stuff ready. The other thing I'll do as well is I'll turn off all my overhead lights, or I'll turn off all my big lights and just have my overhead fluorescence on if I'm in, a big commercial room.
Yeah, I like that.
I definitely try and keep it cooler in there just to preserve those terpenes. I know a lot of guys
protect the terps.
Depending on the situation you're in. I know that, commercial scale, you can't do this, or a lot of people don't, but there are people who do the 24 hours of darkness. I'm not opposed to it.
I'm not opposed to it. I've done it. I don't buy into it as a religion. Like, in other words, if I got to a part in my tent where I had two and I knew it was going to go down, I would never turn the lights back on. I'd let them just chill in the darkness for 18, 24, 48 hours, whatever.
We saw evidence in Amsterdam from Wageningen University that you do want to be lowering those temperatures really the last week or two.
But doesn't that also make sense? Think about what's happening outdoors as the season goes down, right? It's getting cooler. So I always look at that just from a evolutionary standpoint, which also, in the morning or right before, or just never, once that goes, the sun goes down for that last time, just don't turn it back on and harvest it, leave it in dark, whether it's 12 hours, 16, 18. And then you're definitely going to, I like to give it at least 10 to 12 hours in the dark before I go. But beyond that, I'll let it sit in the dark for a good while. But again, think about it at, all the sugars and vegetables and things are at their maximum. That's why everything's harvested first thing in the morning. It's nice and crisp and everything else.
I think one thing I've really enjoyed, if it's our New Millennium factory, or going up to the Northwest around the gorge, or going to Amsterdam or Holland, seeing how important that production process, the post-processing, we'll say, is on a lot of these things. And, I actually want to do an episode about harvest, dry, cure.
Put it on the list.
Because I think it's something a lot of people don't talk about. And, you know.
And if that's something you guys are interested in hearing more about, give us a shout out. Say, hey, I actually think that would be some good stuff. Again, if you have ideas, we're all ears. You know, I think we're settling into, and in fact,
If this isn't.
This is our first episode of season 2.
Yeah, we came up on our year. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. We made it.
It was truly amazing. We didn't know what to expect.
We didn't get canceled.
No, thank you guys for coming along for the ride. This is our first episode of our second year. Made it through the first year. 52 total episodes in the first year. Thank you guys.
Pretty cool, man. Pretty cool.
And thank you guys for having me. This has been great. As soon as I knew Gabe and Gary, Gabe and Jaron, they were so knowledgeable. When I go on Dude Grow Show now, I'm always like correcting them and saying smart shit, and I always go, it's because of them Jug Dealer boys.
Thank you, friend.
We couldn't have done it without you, Grandpa.
Likewise, yeah.
I can tell you, we both had our own things before you got here, and
guys, there's no I in team, and we look at this as a big team. Thank you, Juggernauts out there. We really appreciate you following. You're going to continue to see great stuff from us come out. Grambo's working hard.
If you have any ideas, man, if you have any ideas, if you have stuff you want to see us talk about, we're down. And if you want us to come see your facilities, we're down.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you want the Jug Dealers team to come to your event facility, let us know. Hit us up on Instagram, jugdealers.net.
We out and about.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we've both got, between the two of us, between the three of us, media, cultivation, practical experience, college education.
And I'll come. These guys are busy.
I said the three of us.
I do nothing. But you guys are busy. You're always going over. I'm sitting on my fat butt.
Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you very much.
Peace and love.
Adios.